Yes, let's do it.
Yeah, I would be happy to do that. So I'm Kelly Warble, as hopefully some of you know. So I'm past president now of the AMTA. And it is with very great pleasure this morning that I introduce David Hestenes, who has been absolutely transformative in my teaching practices. And one of the most inspiring teachers inspiring stories that I know is the story of David Hestenes' partnership with high school physics teacher Malcolm Wells, and how they together sort of developed modeling pedagogy and how modeling pedagogy could be implemented in a classroom effectively. And then I also do want to take just a moment to say that Dr. Peter Bennett is on today, and he is the department chair of the ASU Department of Physics, and it's because of their support that we could host this entire conference. So thank you very, very, very much, Dr. Bennett. So
thank you.
I will, and I believe assisting today will be Colleen McGowan, who also has been transformative on my teaching practice and did do her PhD in physics education research at Arizona State University as a student of David Hestenes. So Colleen, I'll let you take it away, or David can start.
I will start. Just very briefly, telling a very short story about how I came to be here. I came to be here because at my first modeling workshop in 1998 at UC Davis, David Hestenes sat across from me at a picnic table, and we talked a little bit while we were eating dinner, and I told him that I had really wanted to go back to school and get a PhD in physics, but I couldn't do it and teach at the same time. And he said, what would you do with your PhD in physics? And I said, I would be a better physics teacher. And he said, well, you should get a PhD in physics education research. If teaching, being a great physics teacher is what you really want to be, you should be studying physics education research. Why don't you come to ASU? I was living in Sacramento at the time. So that message stuck. And 4 years later, I found myself at ASU as David's student. So a transformative story for sure. And today we're hoping for some audience participation. We're interested in the notion of story. So David and I are gonna talk about story and see where that takes us today. This is going to be a sort of emergent narrative with I hope a punchline at the end. So wait, is that our first slide? Yes, it is. My slides are out of order. So David, story. What is it about story that that is important for thinking and learning? Or start with a story of your own if you like.
This question calls for a story.
Yes, it does.
This slide, I guess you all can see the slide.
Yes.
In the development, all the teachers that are involved are familiar with the modeling cycle in the classroom. I don't know if you are all familiar with the true origin of that structure. The narrative structure, as shown in the box, includes characters, setting, and events. These are all parts of a story. Something that you may have not thought about is that this structure for a story is built into your DNA. And so it's really fundamental to the courses that you have been doing in teaching. The narrative structure involves, there are the actors who are in the story, the setting where the story takes place, and the events that happen. This is invariant. Now, the hunter-gatherers, as research has shown, had built up an understanding of story. So pardon me, you may notice a certain amount of hesitation with some of the things that I'm saying. That's because I had a stroke 2 years ago. And so the main effect of the stroke was influencing my word fluency. Other than that, I think I still have the same basic mental structure. Anyway, as you know, or the hunter-gatherers were crucially involved in being able to communicate with other members of their tribe or group and with the hunting process. And so they were familiar with, they told about what they had done in the hunt with constructing a story that always has that characteristic of the three major characteristics of the events. I will not elaborate on that, but the important point of the story is that it stimulates the mental structure in the listener. And that's a cognitive structure that is built up in understanding the story. So the correspondence between the mental structure of the listener and the events that take place is fundamental for communication and also for teaching. Let me connect this with another story. In, I think it was 1998, there was one of the new excellent high school leaders wanted to visit, or he did visit the classroom of Greg Swackhammer, I think about 1998, to see how it all worked. And he sat there in the classroom, and then Greg came over and talked to him, and he talked to the whole time. And afterwards, Turner was astounded. He said, "Your class runs itself." And yes, if you look at the design of the modeling cycle that we use for the organization of activities and structures, the students, after going through one or two sessions of the modeling cycle, the students internalize what's going on. And the rest of the class, as was illustrated with Swackhammer, just runs through. They know what to do with a procedure, and this. So that's what the workshop leaders are able to talk about.
So stories and models. Stories are models.
Yes, Well, of course, there are more than one model. There's the story, and then there's the mental model, right?
Right.
So that's your understanding of the story. So the whole issue, and that's where you have class collaboration and talking with one another to be able to modify the story in each person's head.
Well, let's see. So, teachers are storytellers.
Yep.
What is the role, in your opinion, of storytelling, or of story, let's say, in teaching and learning?
Well, I think that's what we want to get the teachers to chime in with.
Okay.
And
so stories frame our teaching. Is it possible that there's somebody out there who would tell us a story that frames your teaching? Just open your mic and tell us. If you don't, I'm going to stop sharing and send you to breakout rooms.
Well, in our discussion of what we would be talking about, I've lost the screen.
That's because I'm going to stop sharing and send them to breakout rooms if they won't talk to us.
No, give us a moment.
No, okay. Lee is going to speak.
Time.
Oh.
I just thought, some of us are a little shy, and so somebody else might want to say something, but let's give us another moment.
Give us another moment. Come on. Tell us a story that frames your teaching. Everybody's got a storyline. I know that this is true.
Hey, Colleen, this is Steve Colbert. I don't know if it's necessarily a story, but I do think it's true that you can't exist in the classroom without who you are and all the stories that you tell. I came in as a lateral entry teacher, having worked in environmental consulting and forestry and soils for 20 plus years. So when I began teaching, I think just maybe it's a natural part of my personality, but the stories became who I am, and that was the social emotional learning I got with the students, and how I became, a teacher that students enjoyed. They might not have always agreed with my teaching style and the things that I was trying to get them to learn, but they always came back and said they enjoyed the class. The stories, you have to be careful that you don't get too far off track with the stories. I mean, I have stories about my dad accidentally hanging my sister's dog. I have stories about a guy that I work with who died when his truck crushed him against a gate when he was unlocking the gate. I have stories about, not me, but somebody I work with finding dead bodies in the woods. I mean, just stories like that, they captivate, I think, and they engage the students. So you can't teach, I guess I hear people, or I see young teachers, they try to be somebody that they're not. And every year I tell myself at the beginning of the year, I'm going to tell fewer stories. I can't.
Yeah.
Here I tell just as many stories, and I joke with my students about, it's the same joke I get to tell 3 times twice a year, different 3 block schedule 3 times twice a year.
Yeah.
It's who you are. And I think if you run from the stories, then you're not embracing who you are. And I think if you don't have the stories, then quit teaching, go get some stories and come back.
That is brilliant.
This is why it is important that young teachers go out and they do things that give them those stories, right? So I'm a lateral teacher as well, and I've got all sorts of crazy stories. Maybe not dead bodies in the woods, but great stories from lab experiences and things like that that I went through in university and industrial settings. And but sometimes when I've worked with young teachers, they don't have those stories yet. They've never been out in the real science world yet. Part of what attracted me to modeling was I was like, wow, this is as close as I've seen to what I experienced doing research for 20 years. But then when I talk to some of these young pups, they need to go out and experience some things so that they have those stories. And I think Stephen's exactly right. Be who you are.
Right. Go out in the woods. Indeed.
John Classen has his hand up, and both Holly and Dan are ready to share a story.
Okay.
So I don't know if you,
Okay.
if
So
you have someone you want to call on.
no, just you call on somebody. We'll take let's have 2 more quick stories, and then we will continue. David and I.
Holly, I would like Holly, could you share your story? I'm curious. And John, maybe you right after.
Okay, and I'm gonna apologize for not having a headset. I had to, it's Father's Day. I met my parents, and so I wasn't able to bring everything with me. And this is a quick story, and I don't know that I've ever told Jane this story, but when I was gonna start my master's degree, after a long search of, I knew I wanted to do something in content area. I certainly did not want to do educational masters. And so I was searching for things that I could do and still teach because I had Colleen's problem. And I came across the one in Bozeman, Montana, and decided it was a lot of remote, but you also got to go there. Cool place, that was it. And on the way, my physics professor, Gerald Walker, said to me, Holly, you gotta go and visit these places because the website isn't gonna tell you everything and conversations on the phone isn't gonna tell you everything. And so just to do due diligence so that I knew I had made the right decision, on the way to Bozeman for my first class, I stopped off in Phoenix, and Jane agreed that she was going to meet me, and we got our times mixed up. And I still remember walking into the modeling classroom. It was modeling mechanics. They were in the momentum unit. There was equipment everywhere. There were teachers everywhere. The teachers were so excited. I had never been in a room like that. And I was like, I got to come here. And I completely changed my plans, and the next summer started. And that has completely changed how I teach and changed my life dramatically as a result. So thank you, Jane, and thank you, David, and thank you, Colleen, and thank you all of you that were part of my journey being there. I remember Kelly across the room. She was like this wild lady, all enthusiastic. And again, there's just this group of enthusiastic, amazing people completely changed my life. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Holly. And I think John Classen wanted to share a story. And John, you probably need to unmute yourself. Thank you.
He did.
Thank you. So I'm from South Africa originally. These of craziness and wild animals and things fill my history. But I think the story that I share with the kids the most is how when I graduated from science in high school, I got a D. And now I'm a teacher in teacher science. And I told him it's that moment of awakening. And I found modeling has allowed me to discover my voice, really. And I think that's exactly what it allows the students to do. It helps them to find their voice and to take their experiences that they have as young as they are in middle school, to take their voice and then to be able to use that to help build where they're going to. So I think that's really, what modeling has done. It just gives voice.
Excellent. Thank you. I am going to share my screen again, and we'll see what's on it. Oh, yep. Teachers are storytellers, aren't they? They absolutely are. Stories are, teaching is a social activity, and it's cultural, and it's cognitive, and I didn't even write emotional on there, but it is an emotional activity, I think. And a creative and an ethical activity. We saw many of those themes in the stories that we just heard. So, and as Stephen said, we can't help, we can't help telling those stories. It's what drives the narrative in our classroom. So who are the storytellers? What is our metaphor? And we heard lots of different metaphors just now, but yeah, David, what do you think?
Well, you put that line in we talked about yesterday when we were thinking about what we would be doing on this session. And the critical things that have been going on in our country have highlighted the issues, the role of first responders. And the first responders connect directly with the medical responders. And I'd like to suggest an analogy with the teaching, as with teachers as first responders, and that the teachers are the critical connection between the society at large and the students' interaction. And I think that their role in society is very much undervalued. Well, in some quarters, anyway. So I think that's one metaphor that is worth expanding in describing what it is that the modeling community is doing for society. Yep.
So, do you see yourself, teachers? Do you see yourself anywhere in this list? What's missing from this list? What is your narrator perspective? And maybe what's your narrator perspective going to be next year, or how's it going to change? Don't make me stop sharing my screen.
You're not in the sharing mode there, are you?
Colleen?
Yes.
I think that no matter what we normally are, I think many of us who are going to be in classrooms next year are going to be in that role of first responder, whether that's where we normally comfortably sit or not. I think that has to be in our minds as we go into next year, because our students are going to be in a very fragile place, and a lot of us are in a very fragile place. So I think first responder is a good metaphor to think about or keep in our minds as we move forward into the next year.
I do agree. What else? Who else? I'm going to say I've seen all of these narrator types in classrooms that I have observed. I really love to come and sit in classrooms and just watch. And I have been blessed by the opportunity to sit in many classrooms and watch many fabulous teachers interacting with their students. And everybody's got a little bit of a different narrator perspective that they use. So
and if you look in the chat, we have some great teachers as sanitation specialists, therapists, counselors, etc. And Stephen Colbert would also like to share something.
Yeah, I was just going to.
Please do.
I say Colbert. You're welcome to say Colbert.
Colbert.
Oh, sorry.
A man has ruined the last name. Anybody West Alabama, they say Colbert anyway. So I think that listening, that I think what I have seen in the fourth quarter of last semester was that I had to listen more. And this goes back to John's excellent points about, the story should be, our students should be the storytellers. If we bring them to tell their stories, that's a great point. But I think we have to show what it means to listen. And a lot of times the listening is one-on-one. That's the thing that I picked up in the fourth quarter, is that you have to, put everything else aside and it's that difference between empathy and sympathy, and just saying, this really sucks. but life will go on, and this will recover. And yeah, you're a senior, you're not going to get this part of graduation, and it's tough, and you have to listen.
Indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. Well, then, that's not the one. Is that the next slide? No, the next slide is supposed to be, why do we tell stories? Back.
The slide I have is what stories.
My slides are messed up there.
Colleen, I'll tell a story while you're straightening your slides out.
Okay, this is the story. Okay, and do it.
Education, well, forestry research for many years. And one of the Soil Science Society meetings, there was an S7, which is the forest soil section. And you always had to, back in the day, you had a slide carousel, and you handed your slide carousel to somebody and trusted them to put it on the machine.
Yep.
Always reverse somebody's slides, or particularly if you're a grad student, or they would stick in a slide that had nothing to do with what you were presenting and see how you reacted. And you know, you kind of knew you were accepted when they started messing with your slides, and that you realized, I'm part of the club.
Indeed, I remember distinctly my students picking up my car. So I taught all girls, but I told them that they were powerful if they worked together. And so they combined their respective works to lift my car and turn it sideways in a parking place. You know, 25 girls can lift a car. And, you know, they did it because they loved me. Yeah, you know. Okay, but this is the next slide. So why do we tell stories? We need a through line for life in our classroom, I think. And and so
let me just chime in here.
Please do.
That that line that you have there, what students do with their spare time is a determinant in their career choice. I think the most important thing in the experience of young people that go into, well, maybe in any career, is what they do with their spare time. And yeah, there's a story for that. One story that got me started in the academic career was in the 8th grade. I discovered that one of these one of the local libraries that were put together, that were created during the 20s and the 30s across the United States, that in Chicago, I discovered that there was a local library that I hadn't known about. And I walked around. It was nestled among many high buildings. And when I went in there, there were very few people, but I've just felt this warm feeling and spent a lot of time looking across the shelves. And there I came across the book Microbe Hunters by Paul de Kreef. And well, that book has been, it's still in print. I think it's been reprinted recently. It's quite amazing. But anyway, I was fascinated with the ideas of little bodies, of microbes, and the structure of cells and things like that. And I can connect a straight line from that incident and reading that book with my decision to to be a pre-med major in college, and that followed me up through my junior and senior year when I learned about philosophy, and I studied the Reformation and became much more aware of social issues. And there, in my senior year, I decided to change from my pre-med major. Well, actually, I had gone into a speech major, but anyway, I changed. The last semester of my senior year, I decided to go into physics. And I took my first physics class there. This was at a small liberal arts college, Pacific Lutheran University, near Tacoma, Washington. And at the end of the semester, I won't tell you the long story that went on, but at the end of the semester, the instructor, the professor, who was a physicist, well, he was a physics professor, and he said, "So you want to become a physicist?" Because then I had decided that I was going to go to graduate school into physics, but my grade was a C for that course, and the professor said, "Hestenes, you'll never make a physicist." So that launched me to my graduate studies in physics.
Well, okay. So what's the moral of that story?
I guess the moral of that story is that don't pay too much attention to counselors and advisors.
Okay.
Follow your dream, what you want.
Sure. Sure. And if physics fascinates you, if that's what you think about in your spare time, go for it. So who we are really shapes our stories. But and one thing that David pointed out to me when we were talking about this session is that all stories have a moral. And he told me a great story about his dad's book of wisdom. And you want to tell him briefly about Dad's book of wisdom, David?
Well, actually, it has gone from my dad to my son, who has been a physics teacher for the last nearly 2 decades, although he's just recently retired. But whenever I would one of the comments that my father often said to me after I had just screwed up on something, he said, "You must always check." And so that I have put down in Dad's book of wisdom, and my son always keeps referring to these various platitudes that we have collected in this personal book, and we've enjoyed my relationship with my son. That's helped a lot.
So we thought we need a modeler's book of wisdom. And we need the modeler's book of wisdom to be populated by modeler stories. And the morals of these stories will prompt actions. And these actions will be in pursuit of our goals. So if we want to know where AMTA needs to go, let's start collecting some stories. And the morals or actions that these stories prompt can become a modeler's manifesto. A statement of our purpose, our ideals, our objectives as a community. We have this common identity. I think we are probably running up against the end of time. Is that correct, Kelly?
I think that, let me look on the schedule. I apologize. So yeah, we have until 9:45 a.m. So we still have about 7 or 8 more minutes. So go from there. And I'm noticing a lot of the stories resonating in the chat box. And
yes, and I have not been able to look up there. Yeah.
I actually would invite Melissa Gurmscheid to speak. I'm wondering what you were meaning when you said it doesn't need to always be our story. If you could weigh in on that.
Oh, you're going to put me on the spot. Okay.
Yep.
I had to.
No, I was just saying I have my students examine a variety of scientists from all disciplines. And I strategically have looked to find representatives of every continent, to find representatives that kind of reflect the demographics of my students, to find people that I think whose stories might encourage them to pursue science. And so when we're talking about something, it's great for me to share their story so that my students can see that scientists, the pictures on my wall don't include Darwin or Einstein or Newton. They include Qiansheng Wu, and they include quite a few, Mae Jemison, people that my students might want to read about or hear about, and I can share their stories and their words and have them look to those scientists rather than just me.
Thank you, Melissa. And someone's already asked if they could have your list of scientists. If you could share that, that would be great.
Yeah, I could do that.
We need those lists. We need lists of great books too. I see in the chat that some people have recommended books. Wouldn't it be great if we had a modeler's library, not just a library for ourselves, although it would be great for us to have a library for ourselves, and even a reading group, book club, whatever, monthly, who wants to read? I don't know. Name this book. Got a good book, David?
Yeah, there's a new book by Stanislaus Dehaene, which I just started reading yesterday, which is about how we learn. Dehaene is one of the leading cognitive scientists in studying cognition, and he's been directing it towards education. He started out primarily working on with math learning, and he has a lot to say about the structure of the brain and how it relates to education. It's the best reference, I think, in this subject.
Cool. Who wants to read the Dehaene book? Let's read together. But don't we also need books that we can have in our classrooms for students to borrow, to read in their spare time? If spare time shapes, who we're going to become And I think I agree with David. I think that it was a spare time activity that basically pointed me in the direction that I went. We need to round those up and post them somewhere. So how would you like to be involved? I've got a little form down there, a URL for a form down there, and I think that Kelly is going to help me out by posting that URL in the chat, if possible.
I can do that. Just give me a moment.
Yeah.
Colleen, it's Elizabeth. In a
Yes.
group yesterday, because I was saying that I assigned nonfiction books to students, and
Yep.
I took the list, and you know, we can definitely share it with this, and then just keep building on it. But it's all the books that I have on my bookshelf. Hopefully, I get them all back, or I'll be buying a lot of books this fall.
I know. I know.
But it's to get kids thinking about science in a different way, outside of what happens in the classroom. And I did buy the book about the microbe, and I'm like, oh, that's a great one to add to my list. So thank you.
Yes. So I think we're going to wrap up with one last story by David about.
Yeah. Well, it's not my story. Recently, I remembered, you know, the famous saying from Newton that if he's seen further than other men, it's because he stood on the shoulders of giants. The comment from Einstein that brings to me is Einstein said, well, I stood on Maxwell's shoulders. And James Clerk Maxwell, was famous for his innovation, but the little story that's told about when he was a young boy. He was curious about everything, and he was always asking adults, well, what's the go of it? And then when the usual ineffective response he gets from the adult, then James Clerk said, what's the real goal of it? And so what's the real goal of AMTA? Maybe is a moral.
Yeah. What is the real goal of AMTA? If we get your stories, if we can collect your stories, and I'm serious, I want to see your stories. And if you don't want to write them down, then we can get on Zoom and you can tell me your stories, and I'll write them down.
And by the way, about 20 years ago now, I had advised the teachers in the modeling workshops to have a program to have for loaning books to the students in the classroom, and for the parents to buy the book and donate it. Each student, and that way you get the collection of books. And this was supported by, I think it was about about the year 2001, when John Hubitz was the president of the AAPT. He was supporting this, and Hubitz, I think, it would be good to invite Hubitz to talk about that, because his main hobby has been on the history of physics and science in general, and he has an enormous library which he loves to talk about. But there's one danger here, and that is to have too many good books. And then, so you've got to have some focus, some way to manage what are the selections so that you have some focus.
So we need a librarian. Or
Yeah, not an ordinary kind librarian, I think.
no, a curator. We need a curator.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, I believe our time is up. I'm going to stop this sharing.
And thank you all for the privilege.
But I'm happy to hang around for a bit. Maybe David will hang around for a bit if anybody wants to chat or ask questions. But we hope you copy that link that Kelly pasted in the chat and go fill out that form. It's not asking you for much, but you know, how do you want to be involved? How do you want to shape AMTA? There are so many ways. You look at this chat; it's filled with ideas and stories, and so we want to hear from you.
Colleen,
Yes.
this is Pamela Auburn. I teach at a community college,
Uh-huh.
and we're very much looking at ways to enfranchise underrepresented groups in STEM. In fact, there's a whole NSF initiative on this.
Yes.
What attracted me to modeling is that it has a way of leveling the playing field. And you know, one of the things that we know is often when underserved students get in, they don't care about the subject because they don't see it relating to them in any way, and they don't get it. So I think modeling might be a way of overcoming that. I would be interested in helping someone, you know, work up a grant proposal.
All right, you and I are going to talk.
I've applied for, and I am a PI right now on an NSF grant. But there are two places where I think this might fit. One is that I currently teach at a Hispanic serving institution, and there is that's where this initiative resides. Is it's how to improve science ed at HSIs.
Cool. Let's talk. I'm putting my, oh no, I misspelled it. It should say Colleen at modelinginstruction.org, and I missed
Yeah,
the
you
last
forgot the ION. I get.
Yeah, so you get the idea. Colleen at modelinginstruction.org. Anybody with any ideas, please. Yes. Please be in touch.
And if I can interject with a few housekeeping items. So at the top of the hour, we are going to have Fran Kudry giving a showcase of Pivot Interactives. So those of you interested in using your Pivot Interactives in your classroom for remote learning, that will be an excellent thing to attend. I did want to say that the link for that got changed this morning. We're going to do it in a normal Zoom room rather than the webinar room. So it will be in this same room. And the link is updated on the Google schedule, but if you had downloaded it as a PDF yesterday, it might be the wrong link. So just take the link again for this session.
Can you just paste it here?
I can try to. I don't know if I have it in my copied.
Oh.
So if someone else could paste it, that would be very helpful. It's the same link you took to get to this meeting.
Oh, look, Matt pasted it. Matt pasted it in.
Thank you, Matt.
Look,
I figured
see?
someone would have my back.
We are all helping out.
So I would like to leave this meeting open for at least 5 more minutes, and then and feel free to linger and ask Colleen and Dr. Hess and David questions if you'd like. But then I'll probably close it so the recording will restart again when Fran begins. So see everyone at the top of the hour, I hope, and feel free to go take a break, get some coffee, but linger and ask questions if desired.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Anybody else got a good story?
There's definitely some great stories being shared in the chat box.
Yes, I do have to
I
look
have
at the
one.
chat. Oh, please do.
I have one for you, Colleen. So
Okay.
this is, I am a big proponent for growth mindset. And I think one of the big things that we have to do as educators is be willing to share our own foibles and mistakes. So this happened to me about 3 or 4 years ago. I got a gas range. My wife and I both love cooking, and we've had electric ranges for a long time. So we finally got a gas stove, and I was very excited about getting it. And one of the things I was most excited about was I was going to be able to roast marshmallows anytime I wanted. I wouldn't have to make a fire to roast a marshmallow. So I got out my marshmallows, and I put it on a fork, and I roasted it, and I got it to the perfect thing, you know, and I go in depth about the perfect way to roast a marshmallow, because it's not, you know, you can't put it on fire. You got to get it to where it's gooey on the inside and completely perfectly golden brown on the outside. And then I took this perfect marshmallow, this wonderful golden perfect marshmallow, and I put it into my mouth, and I did not realize my mistake until I heard the hiss. And I had 4 perfect lip burns because I had put the fork that had been roasting the marshmallow on into my mouth. I would never have done that. I would never have done that with a regular roasting fork, right? But here's a different fork. So this is a new context of something that I did not, you know, a fork has never betrayed me before in such a way. So I have a picture of my lip tattoos that I had for about a week and a half, where I had these nice blisters on my lip from that. But yeah, that was a good time. Kids love that story.
Your fork metaphor betrayed you.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Thanks so much, Brian. And Teresa wanted to remind everybody that if you want to keep the you can always keep the conversation going link to in the chat box. Sorry about that, Colleen.
That's okay. So when you when you close this meeting, I will migrate on over to the keep the conversation going.
And I think Teresa shared the link to that room in the chat, and it's also on the AMTA schedule.
Cool.
So I'll keep this open for a couple more minutes, and then we'll close so we can get ready for Fran.
All right.
I think it's very important that students know that failure is okay. There's so much emphasis in university on getting an A as opposed to learning anything that it drives me a little bit batty. But you know, I'm quite willing to share with students that I have failed classes, and they look at me like, "You failed?" And I'm like, "Yep, I got a big fat F in this course."
And so look at you now, right? Yeah.
Along those same lines, I share with students. Yeah, I got into Cal right out of high school. And they're like, "You went to Cal?" Yeah, I did. And then I said, you know, then after 2 years, I had a good job, and I didn't know what I was doing there, and I left. And 8 years later, I went back to college, and I was a lot better student there. Now, I always couch that too in the terms that some students, my wife works with first-generation students, and for them, it's really important to go through the 4 years. So I try to kind of like the equity discussion yesterday. I try not to put my story as something that will work for everyone, but just that sense of sometimes, like you say, sometimes you fail, sometimes you quit, and you come back later.
Indeed. Yes, indeed.
Well, thanks for everybody for sharing your stories. And I am going to close this room just for now, and then reopen in about a minute so we can get ready for Fran and the Pivot Showcase. And be sure to go to the Keep the Conversation Going room as desired.
All right.
So,
thanks, Kelly.
Thanks so much, everybody. See you in a few.